Last week, I delivered possibly one of the worst starts to a lesson that I've done for many years. And in today's video, we're going to talk through why it happened and my lessons learned from it. Welcome, as always, to mytenniscoaching.com and my tennis coaching on YouTube. But yeah, last week I did a private lesson, and I reckon it's probably the worst 15 to 20 minutes start to a lesson that I've done in many years. And there's reasons for it, which I'm going to share first and foremost, and then I'm going to share some lessons learned from it as well, and hopefully you can take away some lessons from my failure. Number one, it was pre-planned. So the players been working on serve over the past few weeks, and we've developed some really good practices between us over the course of 3 or 4 sessions, but we've not filmed them because I want to give the player a bit of a break from filming, because I film quite a lot of my private lessons for a couple of reasons. One, for the player. Two, to share stuff with parents. And 3, for content as well. But I want to give players a bit of a break and sort of get away from just constantly being filmed. And we designed some amazing practices, maybe because the camera wasn't there. And I wanted to get it on film because I want to share it with my Tennis Coach Academy and share good practice and listen, like this is what I've designed, and it's worked really, really well. That's my first mistake. So I've gone in with a pre-plan of 3 practices that we're going to do. No idea how the player is going to react to the first practice. And then no matter how the player reacts, I was just going to do activity 2, activity 3. Goes back to the whole idea of pre-planning. That was my first mistake. Second mistake was my mindset going into this day. So I had quite a busy day that day, and I was quite stressed. I was quite tired. I had quite a really bad night's sleep the night before. And yeah, I wasn't in a good place. So I was pretty moody and pretty cranky going into that session. And it was towards the end of the week, and I knew I was off the weekend as well. It was literally the last day before I took a few days off, and that played a part of it as well. So I wasn't in the right frame of mind. So not a great start before I've even walked on court. Walk on court, greet the player. Everything's pretty fine for the first couple of minutes. The usual chit-chat backwards and forwards. Explain to them that we're going to do some filming again today. We're going to film a couple of practices that we've done previously, and just want them to behave as normal as possible. And yeah, we'll get the content in. After 15 minutes of the first practice, the player is disengaged. They're not really focused. They're not really enjoying the session. And I intervene. I stop and sort of say, okay, what's going on? Don't feel like you're fully focused here. Don't feel like you're fully engaged here. And to be fair to the player, they took full responsibility. Like, yeah, I'm just not feeling it. I'm not really focused. I'm not really listening very well. And I'm like, okay, I'm glad you accept all that stuff. Let's go back and try and make it better. And we had a couple of things of what we're going to do, try and improve our focus, what we're going to try and do to improve our effort level or our commitment to it. And as I was walking back to the baseline, I sort of reflected on the intervention. I was like, oh, no, hang on, that's not right. And I was thinking about how I was communicating during the drill and the practice even. And I was moody, I was grumpy. My pitch and my tone wasn't where they should have been. My intervention, I was leading the player more to blaming himself. And I sort of stopped and went, no, that's my fault. This is my fault completely. Because I've pre-planned everything. I've made it about me in terms of, I'm going to film this content today. And yes, there is a little bit of leeway because it is part of what they've been working on. But is it what the player needed in that moment? No. Have I taken into consideration where the player was at that moment? No. So I turn back around and go back to the net, called him back into net, and you can see the player going, oh my God, I'm in trouble or something. I said, I'm really sorry. I've got this wrong. I've got it wrong for 2 reasons. Number one, I've pre-planned something and it's not gone well, and I'm just making you carry on, and that's not right. Like, I need to adapt to what's happening with you. Secondly, I'm not in the right frame of mind here today. I'm tired. I'm a bit grumpy. I'm a bit cranky. I'm finishing quite a long run of a couple of days of work. And I know that for the fact I'm off work for 3 days after this lesson. I'm not in the right frame of mind here. I'm sorry. And the player was quite shocked and taken aback. They're going, oh, what do you mean that you're sorry? So it's not right. It's not. It's all on me. So I stopped filming. I stopped recording. I said, listen, how's your day been? Oh, I've had a really bad day. I'm really tired. Things haven't gone well in school today, and yeah, I'm really struggling in the lesson. And I went, oh, you should have told me at the start. And you're like, oh no, because you were quite excited for what you had planned. I didn't want to sort of let you down. I said, oh no, because you would have told me at the start, I probably would have just completed a 360 and changed it. But I'm glad you told me now, and I love that honesty that we've got together. And if you ever feel like you're tired and cranky, please tell me, and I'll do one better. When I'm tired and cranky, I'm going to tell you. I think it's important that we both understand where we're both at. And the player was like quite taken aback. So okay, camera's going off. What do you want to do today? Where do you want to take it? And then they came up with a couple of games that they enjoy doing that aren't as intense physically or psychologically. And we just took the player on a journey for 40 minutes. And at the end of the session, they enjoyed it, and they said, listen, we both agree that we're both tired. We both probably needed a bit of a break. And we're both going to have some time off over the weekend, which is probably needed. And I just think I want to share this story for two reasons. Number one, a big criticism of me generally is I come across like I'm preaching, I'm high or mighty, and I get that element because that's how social media works a little bit. But I do get it wrong. I got it wrong massively last week. And if I didn't stop on that walk back to the baseline and question my own methods and my own coaching, I probably would have carried on that whole session just trying to get the best out of the player and pushing the player possibly past their limits and them not having a great lesson experience. And that's on me because I think I failed to play there on the pre-planning and also by not myself going in with the right mindset. I think sometimes as tennis coaches, we give ourselves a hard time because we do work really hard. It is hard work being a tennis coach because you're constantly performing. You're constantly delivering sessions. You've got to be the life and soul sometimes of the session as well. And that takes its toll on you. And I think sometimes we can say to the players, listen, I'm really tired today. Because I think that shows that they can be tired sometimes as well. And I want my players to come on court and they say to me, listen, I'm really tired today. Like out of 10, I'm at 3. Well, great, let's just be the best we can be with a 3 then. As long as we get the best of what we have in the moment, and I'm happy. I think that's a really important lesson. And I definitely don't believe 4 or 5 years ago I would have been big enough or mature enough to point the spotlight at me and say, no, hang on, I've got this wrong, not the player. I think I would have just carried on trying to get blood out the stone and probably had a horrible experience with the player and me. And I can think back on lots of lessons where I've done that, where I've gone in with the wrong mindset and that's affected how I've performed against the player and obviously then had an impact on the player as well. And I think sharing these stories is important as coaches because you can have a bad lesson, you can get things wrong. But like we say to the players, we need to get things wrong at times so we learn and grow from it. And hopefully this story, one, makes me feel a bit more vulnerable and I'm not high or mighty, but also two, those coaches out there, when you do have a bad lesson, you're driving home and you think, oh my God, I can't do this no more. Take a deep breath because it's another lesson. And the great thing about tennis coaching, a bit like tennis matches, there's always a next one. So I think if you just take those learning parts from it, you're going to become a better coach. Anyway, let me know down in the comments when you get lessons wrong, what do they look like if they go wrong. And as always, check out the video on the screen now. And until tomorrow, speak to you soon.